Oh yeah, Dr. Billy Abdullahi is here with us. He is the president of NAS. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, clearly the strike is taking its toll across the country, so much as we'll come to that. But this particular scenario, yes, it's 8 months. 8 months. But at the moment, I know that there's been several meetings that you've had with different authorities, and having to wait 8 months. On the one hand, yes, many people will say, okay, but of course you also have the other effects about some of these things. So let's take it from, ever since the strike began, we call that strike, what has the latest development been in terms of the engagements? What are the authorities telling you?
Thank you very, very much. To start with, yes, we know there are consequences to every action. And it's one of the few reasons why we've actually evaluated the situation over and over and over again before we reach this decision. And currently, yes, we've been having engagements with the relevant stakeholders. As yesterday, we had a meeting outside the state. I wouldn't be able to give the full details of this meeting because of the security implications. Also, we had a meeting with the Minister for State for Health, who re-emphasized the situation, actually informed us that they will be intensifying efforts. They've actually been making efforts before that they will intensify these efforts as reaching out to the security agencies to ensure the release and also reaching out to us. But as it stands right now, the process has been a very long one. It started when she was abducted on the 27th of December, and we've followed all due protocols. We have looked at the ramifications of actions. We've tried to see how we can covertly get this result. And when we were not seeing any improvements, we started with an increased media engagement to actually call to the federal government.
When you say improvement, what do you mean by improvement?
Well, if I say improvement, yes, if you noticed from the reports, the abduction was of 3: the husband, the wife, and the nephew. At the point in time, the husband was released. But the wife and the nephew has been in captivity since 27th of December. And when we at the point, we did not even get any form of information about if she's alive, if she's dead. Anything was not getting to us. Over time, we had to discuss with the family, because we have to carry the family along in every decision we are making. And when we discussed with the family, later on we found out that she's alive. Now the question is, for how long? What is the current state she's in? The information we have is that she's not so healthy anymore. The health is deteriorating, and we're waiting for her to die before we actually make a move. Hence, but we know if we do a drastic action, there will be impact on the healthcare system. Hence, when we go into the media engagement, we did the media engagement for 2 weeks after we had given the first ultimatum. But when we were not getting any form of response, that was what resulted in the protest that was carried widely across all our centers across the nation. And this protest continued for another 2 weeks before we had to take the painstaking decision to actually embark on this one. It's a 7-day warning strike. We are hoping the federal government will hear us and do the needful.
But these kind of things are usually not straightforward in terms of the approach that security agencies may take. And sometimes, even if they want to take certain steps, they may not tell NRD or yourselves. But in terms of this strike, and you also did say your team considered several options before you went on the strike. Did you think that, or what if this strike puts a lot of pressure on security agencies and then you take a wrong step and it has consequences? What happens?
Well, thank you very much for this question. It was one major ramification. It's not just about if the security agencies take a wrong step. It's even about what are the other ramifications of this action to even our own workers within Kaduna State. We looked at all of this. But it's 8 months. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The security agents were informed at the beginning. It's not like as if we've been aloof, we've been quiet about it. After every of our meeting this year, if you look at the communique, look at each of those communiques, our name was boldly written. The situation was spelled out. We've written. the Ministry of Health has written. So, as it stands right now, we are the ones being forced to take a decision, not the security agents. The security agents could have saved all of this if they had just done the job within the 8 months, gotten her out, and then we wouldn't have to make any noise. We waited. We waited, but now if we do not do anything, the other questions which we asked is, if we decide not to say, because of fear of the security agents not doing anything, of taking a wrong step, we still go covertly, and then we get to find out that she died while in captivity due to a deteriorating health. Would we honestly have said that we did all we can to save a mother of 5, a doctor that has been serving that community, a situation that has been on for 8 months? Those are the questions that came up during the Congress.
I mean, it's Dr. Ganiat Pupola, that's the registrar, for people who don't know, registrar of ophthalmology at the National Eye Center in Kaduna. And of course, what you're seeking for is for her really son and her nephew. You know, I want to be able to get your thoughts on how security agencies have been handling the situation from the fact that you're going on a strike. You obviously believe that they're not doing enough. What do you think should be done? And just so we can understand, you have proof of life. Is there ransom being asked for? What are the details for us to understand?
Well, because of the current discussions we've had, we might not be able to give specific details as to what is being demanded. Yes, there's a demand.
Okay.
And the security agents they've given explanation as to some things that they are currently doing, but the information is coming after some of the actions. And for me, that is where the problem is. The individual has been on for 8 months. Activities are being done, obviously. But what is being done and why is it taking 8 months? Yes, students were abducted in Benue. It didn't take 8 months. The doctor was kidnapped in Anambra. It didn't take 8 months. Kogi State, we've had abductions. It didn't take 8 months. We are afraid that we might get to that point whereby it will replicate the case like in Calabar, where a consultant neurologist, someone that is of great impact to the society, was lost, and as of till today, nobody has heard from. We have a similar case in Kogi. We don't want to wait to get to that point. Yes, there are risks to every action, but at this point in time, 8 months is a long time for us to start thinking of so much of the risk.
What's the point you're trying to make when you talked about Benue and some of those other persons that didn't take 8 months? Why do you think this one is unique?
Well, as it stands right now, those ones, yes, they came with some outcries. And if you look at the Anambra case, there was almost a strike action almost immediately that the case was done. And then he was released. It might not have anything to do with it. It might be that the security agents were proactive and they got released. But at the same time, maybe our voices are not being heard enough, and that's the reason why our own situation has not been looked into.
What do you want, really? Do you want them to pay? Because you said that they've made demands. Do you want the government to pay these demands? Do you want them to do an airstrike? What do you want to be done?
The job of the federal government is to protect the life and properties of every citizen in Nigeria. We are not going to teach the federal government how to do the job. Our demand is simple, it's straightforward. Let Dr. Pupola Ganiat return to our family. That is all we're asking for. How they do it, what they do, they're not really asking questions on us. What we are looking for is a response and a free release. That is all we're asking for.
So, at the moment, is it that, because looking at the entire scenario, just trying to understand why the NERD thinks that the security agencies are not doing what they ought to do. You must have been looking at them, looking at what they're saying, the body language. Were they not the same before the husband was released? What changed? What's different?
Well, to be sincere with you, yes, there were interactions, but what is being achieved is now being delayed. And we have information of a deteriorating health status of both the lady and the nephew. There are some things I shouldn't say online, but when you hear information like you have a colleague of yours, a mother, not being fed for 3 days. It wells up emotions within you. And those are the things that we are hearing. So our fear is that even while they are doing what they are doing, there's still a risk that while in captivity, our life may be lost. And it actually now calls to question, which one gives you more risk? Waiting or crying out for help?
But you've had several meetings as well with Kaduna State government also.
Well, 2 engagements specifically, and yes, they pointed out that they are on it also, but apart from the one of recent 2 weeks ago. Now, we've not had specifically, okay, XYZ is what we want to do. We don't want to ask what they want to do. Maybe they have their own reasons why they don't want to state it, because of the fact that, yes, you can't trust anymore. It's a security situation. But at the same time, they need to understand that the whole weight gives a form of agitation and a form of tension amongst our members. And that is the reason why these decisions are pointed in.
Do you feel like the profession is being specifically targeted? Because if they release the husband and then she and her nephew are there, it means that they might have done some profiling and think, okay, maybe we might get a lot more what we want by keeping her and her nephew there.
Well, I don't have the statistics to back that up. But yes, if you are looking at the spate of kidnap, yes, there has been an increase in the spate of kidnap for all. I know of the journalists that happen in Kaduna, I know of the justice that happen in Kaduna and all of that. But yes, if you look at, compared to before, the number of the healthcare workers currently being kidnapped, the statistics that we have of people that are currently incarcerated, the ones we are still hearing from, the ones that we did not hear from anymore. Yes, there has been an increase in the attack on healthcare workers. For reasons I'm not yet sure. Like I said, we've not run that statistics, so I cannot make any form of generalized pronouncements.
I mean, as someone that leads that organization, that would be something very worrying to you, to think about the fact that your members could be targeted.
Yes, a major worry, and it's a major worry we've been contending with for a very long time. As it stands right now, we're actually working on developing a protocol that will be the standing rule if any of our members is kidnapped. We already have one for assault within the hospital. We are already working on something for the kidnap, because we need to look at it from this perspective. Is she the first? Is she the only one that has been? How many have been? During the Benue State, the reason why I know about it was that one of the victims was actually our member. So it's a difficult situation across board. And maybe this is a call to action also for security agents, that kidnapping should not be something we see as a routine in this country. And we are hoping that we can stop this epidemic, because right now it's an epidemic within our country. It's a general outbreak that we need to cover as fast as possible.
For the people who may criticize you for punishing Nigerians for what you're going through.
Well, I will totally understand the points from which people will come from. Yes, everybody gets selfish once in a while. Everybody wants their own needs met. And we totally understand this, and that's the reason why it took us this long to make this drastic decision. We have evaluated the consequences, we have looked at it, but I want every Nigerian to ask themselves, this is not an agitation. What we've done in a long time is agitation. We're asking for better welfare, better remuneration. This is a cry for help. Popola Ganiat is someone's mother, is someone's sister, is someone's family member. It can't be you. Will you be happy if the organization she claims to belong to is quiet when she's incarcerated for 8 months? Our decision has nothing to do with general welfare demands. It's a cry for help for our member that is incarcerated. And what we are calling on Nigerians to do is, every Nigerian should be part of the security apparatus. There are people that know about what is coming up. Maybe this will get us more informants to expedite the release of Popola Ghana.
How is your action right now? How is it going down with the NMA and with the Ministry of Health?
Well, it's a difficult one, because they have to do both. They have to protect what they have, and at the same time, they have to understand where we are going to. The person we are talking about is an employee of the Ministry of Health, is a member of NMA also. So they've reached out to us also. They are pleading with us to look at other modalities, yes, which is this, but they are not faulting our actions because they know we've gone through a long process.
Do they support your strike action?
Well, I won't use the term support, but at the same time, as it stands right now, the ministry at our meeting acknowledged our grievances, but pleaded that we should see what we can do to share to the source. We are still going to meet with our Congress, explain what has been done so far. We'll give them all the information because so many activities have occurred between the time of the calling of the strike and after. But the most important thing, which is what we are sending to everybody, is we are not fighting anyone. We are calling for the help of everyone to get our member released from captivity.
What is it that, I mean, is strike the last option?
Well, strike is in different folds. If you notice, like I said, we are putting a lot of things into consideration when we are making.
But this is nationwide.
Yes,
not
it's a nationwide strike.
Kaduna State.
Yes, it's a nationwide strike. It was a 7-day warning strike.
Oh, so that means after 7 days, you go back to the team, you give them feedback, and then they can decide what next.
You have to decide.
You can continue.
All those ones will be left to the decision of the House. But what we are hoping for...
Does it worry NAD when you hear about people in hospitals right now who are not getting health care? Does that worry NAD at all?
It's worrying.
Because many people who are criticizing you online, you know.
I know.
So
it worries NAD
the
when we find
criticism
out
that you're getting online is you're punishing like the sick person for what you're going through. As much as people sympathize with what you know with NAD and the need for Dr. Gania to be released and all of these, everyone wants security operatives to up their game and stuff like that. But at the same time, you have a lot of people who are going without health care right now. So how do you get people to sympathize with you when you're punishing them in many ways? At least that's how they portray you online.
Well, it worries NAD when an average Nigerian does not even get the standard health care that is going to get on an average day, whether we're on strike or not. If you look at the things that we put on the platform for agitations before, we talked about an improvement in the health facility and all those ones. So it worries us. And for the people that want to feel, okay, yes, you are punishing, it's not punishment. 8 months is what we're talking about. We could have said on 28th of December we're declaring a national indefinite strike. We didn't. January, we didn't. February, we didn't. We have done so much. We've done our protests. We've gone on media engagement. I think it's high time the general populace also looks at it that doctors are humans also. And we are having a difficult time managing a difficult situation. Think about the psychological pain the family is going through. I, as the president of the association, every day having to think about that. I have a member of mine incarcerated in a place going through suffering that I cannot talk about. Brings a form of emotional.
Well, it's going to be tricky and very challenging if you ask people to understand what you're going through, because I've had people call me this morning, they're trying to get care for cancer treatment, brain cancer for that matter, and so they can't this morning because of this. So certainly those are very serious issues. And maybe, for doctors, you're used to people dying. I'm not saying you're killing them, but you're usually in the hospital and you see that. So everybody can deal with that as opposed to a professional who handles that every day of their life. So it's something that's why people ask, is strike, must they pull out that option? Because if you try other things, I don't know what else there is, because you see you've done some other things. Besides, if you go on this 7 days warning strike, which is a very serious thing for medical practitioners to go on strike, and she's not released, it means that the authorities are perhaps between the devil and the deep blue sea. We could also suggest that, look, we're doing what we can, but we haven't just been successful.
Well, sir, to quickly put a point to that. Well, number one, we are not okay to see people die. Yes, we've been trained to control emotions when people die. Because I don't think you will be so okay seeing a doctor that is weeping profusely because another patient has died, and you're having your own patient to come to see that same doctor. That kind of image might actually disturb the patient relative that is bringing a new patient. So yes, we've been trained to control our emotions when people die. but we are not okay. Then number two, like I said, put a lot of things into consideration. Number one, we are not the only doctors within the hospitals. Our consultants are there. Our consultants will do what they can do. Yes, we form the largest form of the tertiary healthcare system. That we are not doubting. And yes, our absence will totally be felt across the nation. We are not doubting that. But we need to put also in perspective that this decision was not made out of the blue. It wasn't something that was sprung up because of an action that happened. A lot of process had gone into this. I don't know what it is. Maybe if someone else can reach out to me and tell us what else we can do to actually get the attention of the federal government to work hard and get her out. If we see Dr. Popola Gania today, why not? We're happy to see our patients. We're happy to return back. But the Nigerian populace needs to understand also that like them also, we are feeling pains also. We also have issues also, and we need to deal with it as much as possible also.
I'm actually looking at
more questions online.
the questioning too. There's one person that I can only take one because the others are very, very annoying.
Okay.
They are very angry.
I'm okay with it.
So one person says, how do you juxtapose punishing the sick person with the call to duty? I think it's talking about the duty of care when you swore your oath to be a doctor. It says, how do you juxtapose punishing the sick and your duty of care that you've sworn to?
You see, Nigerians pick and choose things. If you look at that oath, yes, sworn an oath to take care of the patient. But in that oath, it is put there that I have to care for my own health and well-being so that I can give the best kind of health care. Now let's go to the department where Popola Gania is coming from. Do you feel that the doctors are working in those departments in the best frame of mind? Let's go to my congress, the people that came out of my congress demanding for a lot of things. Do you think they are happy working within the healthcare system? And that's the problem. We want people to work without worrying about the frame of mind with which they are working. What we are doing right now is not to punish Nigerians. And like I've said before, we are doing what we are doing because this is what we have left. We could have as well declared a strike a long time ago. But we looked at the process, we weighed it. We've gone on 2 weeks protest. 2 weeks. And we didn't get our release. And Nigerians saying we should accept fate and give up on the Popola Gania.
You know, I said this was very tricky in the opening, and that was partly because I thought, what if government says, look, we know that security agencies have to do a job, and then the other agency could also say, look, the rule is no work, no pay. What if that comes up?
You see, we considered all eventualities. And our question was, what is the cost to the life of the doctor? Can we put a price to it? Our association, like I said, critically evaluated. It took us 8 months to get here.
So the thing is this. Yes, as you say, you consider all of that. And it comes across as though you're saying, what is the price to that? Yes, life is priceless. It means that if government says no work, no pay, it's a consequence of your action. You might accept it. But are you not opening the door in the future for government to come back and say, okay, if you accept no work, no pay, then accept it whenever you go on strike?
Well, number one, the government should be extremely insensitive. Extremely. I have to put that word. To bring that up now. You know why? Because then the question
will... I'm not talking about them bringing that situation now. I'm talking about this scenario where you have said, yes, if they say no work, no pay, we will accept it.
You see, the truth of it is this. The government has a way of throwing a punishment to a few groups. The question is, what is the punishment to the security agents that we've written to since December and have done nothing? It's easy to attack the crying baby when you've not seen the mother that did the baby.
I understand your point.
Now,
what I'm saying is your strike is not targeted at the security agencies. The strike is targeted at government. Government is broad. So the other part of government can say, well, look, we are not security agencies. We are just here to enforce the rules and the laws. So,
true. But at the same time, then you have to just oppose one thing. If you are going to take it out on us for crying out? What are you doing to those that put us in the position of crying out? Everything, one of the few reasons why it seems like as if we have an issue with government is be fair in all situations. If we protested for 2 weeks, how many of the government officials actually came out?
So, while you were saying that, there are people who will also be watching you, maybe online too, and then they could also say, but you don't want the doctor in captivity to die. Nobody wants that. But patients can die as a result of this.
Well, like I said, we're not the only doctors in the social institutions. And we've evaluated these actions. But the question there is, are we saying because we're afraid patients will die within the hospitals, even when there are other doctors within that hospital, should we leave Dr. Popola Ganiya to die? That is the strong question we're asking ourselves. And it's the reason why we made the decisions we made. We could have arose from that meeting and said we are going on an indefinite strike. But we felt, okay, let's give room for more negotiation. Let's put in something. Okay, fine, this is an option for us. We don't want to take this option, but please.
Isn't this tantamount to taking the laws into your hands? Because you could actually sue. Have you considered options, getting the lawyer to ask questions, what legal options are available to us, as opposed to letting people die from hospitals?
Well, the question there is, if we are suing, who are we suing? The security agencies or the bandits? If we are suing the security
agencies,
if we are suing the security agencies, they come and say they are doing their work.
Is that what the lawyers said? Did you consult lawyers? Did any
Not as a lawyer.
That's what they said in the
Not as a lawyer. The question there is, before we go on an industrial action, we don't just make decisions. We consult widely. We look at our situations. We know why we put things in place while there. We do our consultations clearly. And like I said, we did not come up to this epiphany out of the blue because it was something hit. A lot of different places have different protocols. We do not have a protocol yet. Maybe once we have a protocol, then we have a legal backing to say this is what happens if this happens.
Speaking about that protocol, you said you developed one for assault in hospitals.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering. I read about the circumstances under how the family was kidnapped. People will think that they just snatched them on the road or something like that. But it wasn't.
They're picked from the hospital.
And I'm like, how? So, what protocol can work against that?
Now, the first thing is, since the beginning of this year, we've actually worked closely, screaming for an increase in the security status of our hospitals. But it wasn't actually against kidnapping, it was against assault. Now, nobody can envisage when what will happen. The ruler in Katsina State was picked of recent. I was saying he doesn't have enough security apparatus protecting him. But the question is, what do we do when the protocol is not about just strike action? No. How is the chain of contact? How fast do we expect a response from the chain of contact? What are the decisions we will take as a house if these responses are not being heard? Those are what we're talking about now.
How did you know when she was kidnapped? Was it immediate? How did Daniel hear it?
The kidnap occurred midnight 27th, that's early hours of 27th.
They went to their house.
They went to their house to pick them from the house. And by the early morning, the local chapter president reached out to me because after it was done, everybody was informed. The hospital management was informed. The local chapter president was informed me. I informed the security agents. The ministry got to know. So it's not like as if it was a hidden discussion. It was open. Everybody knew. So the question was, activities occurred since then. The husband was released.
Just from my education, when the husband was released, what happened?
Well, I will have to say negotiations. Like I said,
So there were negotiations that happened that
yes,
he was
released
Okay.
with more further demands made after that. Now, like I said before, based on current information and directives, can state some few things in public domain. But yes, negotiations, husband was released, further demands were made, and after these further demands were made, there were a lot of other things that occurred. Like I said, there was even a period of time there was nothing for us. So we are also acting based on fear for the life of our member right now.
So when they got to the house and kidnapped her, there were other people living in that particular area. So are they giving the NARD or people in that area any security tips perhaps that will aid your protocols? Because if they could go to that house, they might have gone to the neighbor's house or something.
Yes, the hospital actually developed one or two things which the Central President has related to me. But you know, different terrains will have different peculiarities. So what we are hoping to do is to have a peculiarity that is of national base, something that can be modified at the different local level. And that's what we're working on.
Well, at the moment, there's a change in the leadership of the DSS and the NIA. Are you optimistic that, who knows, there might be a new direction to all of this?
Well, the information brings both optimism and fear. And why do I say so? Yes, optimism, there's a change. Maybe the direction might be different. But the fear is, being around government for a very long time, you know when there's a change in power, there's a lag in action. And that is the fear. It's one of the few things that you have to think about. If there's a new person in charge, the person will demand that you give him time to understand the terrain.
Well, you're in luck. You're at a point right now where you can literally speak to the new people there.
Exactly.
So let's hear what you have to say to the new NIA DG, to the new DSS boss, so that there won't be that lull before they actually take action on this. What do you need from the new men in office now?
It's the same demands that we've been putting. Avert this crisis in the health sector, protect Dr. Kokwala Ganiat, and bring her home safely. It's simple. The demand is one, straightforward. We are not like I told the last person, it's not hurrah after she's brought home. Because there will be a lot of, like I said, there's a deteriorating health. You have to manage that. There are psychological problems. Even there's the PTSD that even the people that were involved in the process will be going through. Kidnap, like I am beginning to understand, has effects on a lot of people, not just the victims alone. And we have to manage all that. But for us to even start the second process, we must conclude that first process. So the only message I have to the DSS, to the NIA, to UNSA is, please, please, and please, we recognize you're doing something, but it's 8 months already. Bring back Dr. Kokwala Ganiat for us, and we are okay to return back to work.
I know that the big decision, that's what you want, ultimately, but there were certain things that were done which made the team, NID, lose confidence. They were not encouraged anymore. Are you able to highlight one or two of what you saw that made you say, no, I don't think these guys are doing enough?
Well, the reason why we've actually tarried and looked at this, okay, fine, negotiations was done. That one release, maybe something else will come up. Then you had a long period of no information from anybody. And then you come back and then the information you are getting is, I've not been fed in 3 days. It comes to that point whereby you have to look at it that, will this current course of action that we are taking yield the desired results? And what are the effects and the consequences of what you're doing? I wouldn't want to state every other thing we heard, because of it's go, and as healthcare workers, we shouldn't actually put pain on the audience. But we have a doctor in pain, in captivity. It's a little child, so in pain, in captivity. And that's all we're asking for is their release. That's all.
Dr. Dele Abdullahi, President of NARD, thank you for coming on, and
thank you very much.
We do hope that all of this is addressed so that above all else, lives are saved across the board. Or business is this morning on Sunrise Today. What's up next?